The late afternoon sun cast long shadows as Maya and David strolled down Elm Street, the familiar route home from Northwood Middle School. Maya, with her bright pink backpack and a scattering of freckles across her nose, was animatedly describing a particularly funny scene from their history class. David, a bit taller with a shock of brown hair perpetually falling into his eyes, listened with a smile, occasionally interjecting with a witty comment. What many people noticed first about Maya and David was their unwavering honesty. It wasn't just about avoiding lies, it was a deep-seated commitment to doing what was right, even when it was inconvenient. They were the kids who returned lost lunch money, confessed to accidentally breaking a window during a baseball game, and always stood up for those being bullied. This reputation wasn't something they consciously cultivated, it was simply who they were. Their parents had instilled in them a strong sense of integrity, and it shone through in their every action. Today, however, their honesty would be tested in a way they never expected. As they rounded the corner onto Maple Avenue, David's foot bumped against something lying on the sidewalk. He glanced down and saw a brown leather wallet, slightly worn but seemingly full. "Hey, look," he said, nudging it with his toe. Someone lost their wallet. Maya stopped, her eyes widening. "Oh, wow. Hopefully, there's an ID in there. We should try to find the owner." David picked it up, feeling the weight of it in his hand. "Definitely. Imagine how worried they must be." He paused, looking at Maya. "We should probably just take it to the police station, right?" Maya considered this for a moment. "We could," she agreed, "but it might take longer for them to find the person. If we can find an address, we could return it ourselves. It would be faster." Her brow furrowed. "But we shouldn't just open it up and start looking around, that would be wrong." She trusted David completely, but it was important to agree on the ethical approach. They both knew that the right thing wasn't always the easiest. "Okay," David said, holding the wallet carefully. "So, no wild rummaging for fun. Just a quick peek for an ID or something with an address, right?" Maya nodded firmly. "Exactly. We're detectives, but the honest kind." She grinned, trying to lighten the serious mood. The weight of responsibility felt surprisingly heavy. It wasn't just a wallet, it was someone's belongings, their money, their identity. They stepped off the sidewalk and sat down on a nearby park bench, offering a bit more privacy. David took a deep breath and slowly unfastened the clasp. The wallet opened with a soft click. Inside, it was surprisingly organized. There were several credit cards, neatly arranged, and a wad of cash held together with a rubber band. Tucked into a side pocket, David spotted a driver's license. "Bingo," he exclaimed quietly, pulling it out. "It belongs to a Mr. Henderson. And hey, he lives just a few blocks away, on Willow Creek Drive." Maya peered over his shoulder. "Willow Creek? That's not too far. We could walk there after we finish our homework." David hesitated, his eyes scanning the cash. "Wow, there's a lot of money in here," he murmured, more to himself than to Maya. He flipped through the bills, noticing mostly 20s and 50s. This guy must be loaded. As he was about to put the license back, he paused again, his brow furrowing. Something about the money felt off. The colors seemed a little too bright, and the paper felt strangely smooth, almost slippery. He pulled out a $20 bill and held it up to the sunlight, examining it closely. "Maya," he said slowly, his voice laced with concern. "Take a look at this. Does this money look real to you?" Maya leaned in, her eyes narrowing as she studied the bill. At first glance, it looked normal, but as she focused, she began to notice the subtle differences. The portrait of Andrew Jackson seemed slightly blurry, and the intricate lines around the edges weren't as sharp as she remembered. A chill ran down her spine. I don't know, David," she stammered. "It looks a little weird, doesn't it?" The thought that they might be holding counterfeit money sent a jolt of adrenaline through her veins. What had started as a simple act of kindness had suddenly become something much more complicated, and potentially dangerous. "Wait a second," Maya said, her mind racing. "Remember that news report last week? About the counterfeit money going around downtown?" David snapped his fingers. "You're right. They said it was really good quality, hard to tell from the real thing unless you looked closely." He pulled out another bill, a 50 this time, and compared it to the 20. The same slightly off colors, the same smooth texture. A knot formed in his stomach. Okay, don't panic," he said, trying to sound calmer than he felt. "Maybe we're just being paranoid. But, what if it is fake?" Maya's eyes darted around the park, suddenly feeling exposed. "Then we can't just give the wallet back to this Mr. Henderson," she whispered. "What if he's involved?" David nodded grimly. "Exactly. We need to be careful." He glanced at the address on the driver's license again. "Willow Creek Drive, that's near the old abandoned factory, right? The one they said was being used for illegal stuff." Maya's breath caught in her throat. "I think so." "Oh, David, this is getting seriously creepy." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their discovery pressing down on them. The afternoon sun, which had seemed so pleasant just moments ago, now felt harsh and unforgiving. The innocent act of returning a lost wallet had led them down a path they never could have imagined. "Okay, new plan," David said, his voice firm. "We still return the wallet, but we tell the police first. We show them the money, tell them about Mr. Henderson's address, and let them handle it from there." Maya nodded eagerly, relieved that David had a plan. "Yes. That's the smartest thing to do. We can't just accuse someone without proof, but we also can't ignore this. It feels too wrong." David carefully placed the money and the driver's license back into the wallet, trying to avoid touching anything more than necessary. He snapped it shut and stood up, his expression determined. "Come on," he said. "Let's go to the police station." "And Maya?" "Yeah. Let's not tell anyone about this, okay? Not even your mom or my sister. Just until the police have had a chance to investigate." Maya nodded, her hand instinctively reaching for his. "Promise." They knew, with a shared look of understanding, that they were in this together, whatever this turned out to be. The walk to the police station suddenly felt much longer, each step filled with a mix of fear and excitement. They were about to become part of something much bigger than themselves. The police station loomed ahead, a solid brick building with a flagpole waving a weary American flag. The walk had given them time to think, but also amplified their anxiety. What if the police didn't believe them? What if they were wasting their time? David pushed the heavy glass door open, and they stepped inside. The air inside was cool and smelled faintly of coffee and floor cleaner. A uniformed officer sat behind a large desk, typing on a computer. He looked up as they approached. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice neutral. David took a deep breath. "Yes, sir. We found a wallet, and we think it might have fake money in it." He held out the wallet, his hand trembling slightly. The officer raised an eyebrow, a flicker of interest in his eyes. "Fake money, huh? All right, let's take a look." He gestured for them to sit down in the chairs in front of the desk. David carefully explained how they found the wallet, their initial intention to return it, and their growing suspicion about the cash. He emphasized that they only opened the wallet to find identification and had no intention of taking anything. Maya nodded in agreement, adding details and reinforcing their honesty. The officer listened patiently, his expression unreadable. When David finished, he took the wallet and opened it, examining the driver's license and the money with a practiced eye. He used a small magnifying glass to scrutinize the bills, his silence adding to the tension in the room. After a few minutes, he looked up, his gaze meeting David's. "You know," he said slowly, "you kids might be right. This does look like some of the counterfeit stuff we've been hearing about." He paused, considering. "Alright, I'm going to call Detective Miller. He's been working on this case. You two stay here." He picked up the phone and spoke in low tones, his words inaudible. Maya and David exchanged nervous glances. The weight of their discovery suddenly felt even heavier, pressing down on them with the full force of the law. They had done the right thing, they knew, but the uncertainty of what would happen next was unsettling. The small, brightly lit room seemed to shrink around them, amplifying the sound of the ticking clock on the wall. All they could do was wait. And hope they had made the right choice. The officer hung up the phone. "Detective Miller will be here shortly." He looked at them, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. "Good job, kids. You did the right thing." His words were a small comfort in the face of the unknown. A few minutes later, a tall woman with short, cropped hair and a no-nonsense expression strode into the room. She wore a plain gray suit and carried a thick file folder. This had to be Detective Miller. "Officer Davies tells me you two found something interesting," she said, her voice brisk and professional. She didn't smile, but her eyes held a hint of curiosity. David and Maya stood up as she approached. "Yes, ma'am," David said, his voice a little shaky. "We found this wallet, and we think the money inside is fake." Detective Miller sat down heavily in the officer's chair and opened the file folder, glancing at the notes Officer Davies had made. "All right, let's see what we've got." She took the wallet and carefully removed the cash, spreading it out on the desk. She examined each bill with the same magnifying glass Officer Davies had used, her brow furrowing slightly. "Tell me everything," she said, her gaze fixed on the money. "From the beginning." David and Maya recounted their story again, this time in more detail, describing how they found the wallet, their decision to open it, and the moment they realized something was wrong with the money. They explained how the colors seemed off, how the paper felt different, and how they remembered the news report about the counterfeit bills circulating in town. As they spoke, Detective Miller listened intently, occasionally asking clarifying questions. She seemed particularly interested in their description of Mr. Henderson's address and its proximity to the abandoned factory. When they finished, she sat back in her chair, her expression thoughtful. "Okay," she said. "This is definitely the same counterfeit money we've been tracking. It's good quality, but not good enough to fool a trained eye." She paused, considering. "And the fact that this Mr. Henderson lives near the old factory, that's definitely something we need to look into." She looked at David and Maya, her gaze softening slightly. "You two did a very brave thing, coming here. A lot of people would have just kept the wallet, or tried to spend the money without asking any questions." She managed a small smile. "You're good kids." She stood up, her movements decisive. "All right, I'm going to need you to fill out a statement, just to make everything official. Then, I'm going to take this wallet and pay Mr. Henderson a little visit." She paused, her eyes narrowing. "And maybe, just maybe, we'll finally catch the people who are printing this fake money." She turned to Officer Davies. "Get those statements ready. And call for backup. I have a feeling this is going to be a long night." The wheels of justice, it seemed, were finally beginning to turn. And Maya and David had set them in motion. After filling out their statements, which took longer than they expected, Detective Miller approached Maya and David. "All right, kids," she said, "you're free to go. We'll be in touch if we need anything else. And again, thank you. You've been a great help." Relief washed over them as they stepped out of the police station and into the cool evening air. The sky was now a deep purple, and the streetlights cast long shadows on the sidewalk. The world felt different, somehow. They had been part of something important, something real. "Wow," Maya said, letting out a long breath. "That was intense." David nodded, still feeling a little shaky. "Yeah. I can't believe we actually found counterfeit money." He paused, thinking. "Do you think they'll catch the people who are doing it?" "I hope so," Maya said. Detective Miller seemed pretty determined. And she knows about the factory, so that's a good sign. They walked in silence for a few moments, each lost in their own thoughts. Then, Maya stopped suddenly. "Wait a second," she exclaimed. "We never actually returned the wallet." David chuckled. "You're right. We were so focused on the money, we completely forgot." He thought for a moment. "I guess Detective Miller will take care of that, right? She knows where Mr. Henderson lives." Maya frowned. "Yeah, probably. But I still feel bad. It's his wallet, after all. Even if he is involved in something shady, he still deserves to get his stuff back." David considered this. "I guess we could call the police station tomorrow and ask them what they want us to do with it. If they're done with it, maybe we could return it ourselves." Maya's face brightened. "That's a good idea. It would make me feel better, knowing we did everything we could to do the right thing." They continued their walk home, their conversation shifting to lighter topics. They talked about school, their friends, and their plans for the weekend. But beneath the surface, a sense of excitement lingered. They had been thrust into a real-life mystery, and they couldn't help but wonder what would happen next. Would they be called upon to help the police again? Would they ever find out who was printing the fake money? And what exactly was Mr. Henderson's role in all of this? The answers, they knew, were just a phone call away. But for now, they were content to simply be home, safe and sound, and proud of the part they had played in bringing a potential criminal to justice. The adventure, it seemed, was far from over. The next morning, after a restless night filled with dreams of flashing lights and shadowy figures, Maya and David eagerly called the police station. Officer Davies answered the phone. "Good morning, Northwood Police Department," Officer Davies speaking. "Hi, Officer Davies, this is Maya Johnson," Maya said, her voice a little hesitant. "And this is David Chen. We're the kids who found the wallet yesterday, the one with the counterfeit money." "Oh, yes, I remember you too," Officer Davies said warmly. "Detective Miller is still working on that case. What can I do for you?" "Well," Maya explained, "we were just wondering if you were finished with the wallet yet. We were hoping we could return it to Mr. Henderson ourselves, if that's okay." Officer Davies chuckled. "That's very thoughtful of you kids. Let me check with Detective Miller and see what she says." He put them on hold, and they waited anxiously, listening to the Muzak version of "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star." Finally, Officer Davies came back on the line. "Okay, kids, Detective Miller said it's fine for you to return the wallet. She doesn't need it anymore. But she asked that you do it this afternoon, if possible. And she wants you to call her as soon as you've returned it, just to let her know everything went okay." "Okay, great," Maya said, relieved. "We can definitely do that." "All right, good luck," Officer Davies said. "And again, thanks for your help." After hanging up, Maya and David exchanged excited glances. "Okay, Operation Wallet Return is a go," Maya said, grinning. "But this time, we're definitely calling Detective Miller as soon as we're done." They agreed to meet at Maya's house after school. As they walked through the halls of Northwood Middle School, they couldn't help but feel a sense of importance. They were carrying out a mission, a secret assignment that could help bring down a criminal operation. It was like something out of a movie. The afternoon sun was warm and inviting as they set off towards Willow Creek Drive, the familiar brown leather wallet tucked safely inside Maya's backpack. As they walked, they couldn't help but feel a little nervous. What would Mr. Henderson say? Would he be grateful? Or would he be suspicious? They had no idea what to expect. But they knew, whatever happened, they would face it together. They had come this far, and they weren't about to back down now. The truth, they believed, was worth fighting for, even if it meant facing a little bit of danger. Willow Creek Drive was a quiet, tree-lined street with modest houses and well-manicured lawns. As they got closer to Mr. Henderson's address, however, the neighborhood began to change. The houses were older, the lawns were overgrown, and a general air of neglect hung in the air. Number 14, Willow Creek Drive was a small, run-down bungalow with peeling paint and a rusty mailbox. The windows were dark and grimy, and the front yard was littered with weeds and discarded newspapers. It looked nothing like the kind of place they imagined someone with a wallet full of cash would live. A shiver ran down Maya's spine. "This place gives me the creeps," she whispered. David nodded in agreement. "Yeah, me too. Let's just drop off the wallet and get out of here." They approached the front door cautiously, their senses on high alert. As they got closer, they noticed a faint smell of chemicals in the air, a strange, acrid odor that made their noses wrinkle. David reached out and knocked on the door, the sound echoing loudly in the otherwise silent street. They waited, their hearts pounding in their chests. After a few moments, the door creaked open, revealing a man who fit the description on the driver's license, but looked much older and more disheveled than his photo. Mr. Henderson had a thin, gaunt face, with deep-set eyes and a scraggly beard. He was wearing a stained t-shirt and a pair of faded jeans, and he looked tired and weary. "Yeah," he said, his voice raspy. "What do you want?" David stepped forward, holding out the wallet. "Mr. Henderson. We found your wallet yesterday, on Maple Avenue. We just wanted to return it." Mr. Henderson's eyes widened slightly as he recognized the wallet. He reached out and took it, his fingers trembling. "Oh," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Yeah, I lost that yesterday. Thanks." He started to close the door, but Maya spoke up quickly. "Excuse me, Mr. Henderson," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "We noticed there was a lot of cash in your wallet. We just wanted to make sure everything was still there." Mr. Henderson froze, his eyes darting back and forth between Maya and David. A flicker of fear crossed his face. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice suddenly sharp. "Why were you looking at my money?" The air crackled with tension. Maya and David exchanged a nervous glance. They had no idea what Mr. Henderson was going to do. But they knew, in that moment, that they were in over their heads. This wasn't just about returning a lost wallet anymore. This was about something much bigger, something much more dangerous. And they were right in the middle of it. David quickly stepped in front of Maya, shielding her from Mr. Henderson's intense gaze. "We were just being careful, sir," he said, trying to sound confident despite the tremor in his voice. "We know there's a lot of fake money going around, and we just wanted to make sure yours was all there." Mr. Henderson's expression didn't change. He continued to stare at them, his eyes narrowed and suspicious. "You think my money is fake?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. Maya swallowed hard. "No, sir," she said quickly. "We didn't mean that. We were just concerned." Mr. Henderson took a step closer, and the smell of chemicals grew stronger, almost overpowering. David could see tiny beads of sweat forming on Mr. Henderson's forehead. He was definitely nervous. "Look," Mr. Henderson said, his voice softening slightly. "I appreciate you returning my wallet. But I'm a busy man. I don't have time for this." He gestured towards the street. "Just go home, okay? Forget you ever saw me." He started to close the door again, but David held up his hand. "Wait, Mr. Henderson," he said. "There's one more thing. We noticed that your address is near the old abandoned factory. Have you ever been there?" Mr. Henderson froze again, his eyes widening in alarm. "What do you know about the factory?" he demanded, his voice rising. David and Maya exchanged a terrified glance. They had definitely hit a nerve. "We don't know anything," Maya said quickly. "We were just curious. We heard that it's a dangerous place, and we were wondering if you lived nearby." Mr. Henderson stared at them for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, he let out a nervous laugh. "The factory? That old place? Nah, I don't go near there. It's full of rats and broken glass. Why would I go there? He paused, his eyes narrowing again. Look, he said, his voice low and threatening. I don't know who you two are, or what you're up to. But I suggest you leave now. And don't come back. Understand? He slammed the door shut, leaving Maya and David standing on the porch, their hearts pounding in their chests. The air was thick with tension, and the smell of chemicals hung heavy in the air. They knew, without a doubt, that they had stumbled onto something big, something dangerous. And they were in way over their heads. They turned and ran, not stopping until they were a block away from Mr. Henderson's house. They didn't look back. They just kept running, their only thought to get as far away from Willow Creek Drive as possible. They had a phone call to make. And they had a feeling Detective Miller was going to be very interested in what they had to say. Gasping for breath, Maya and David finally stopped running when they reached the familiar streets near Maya's house. They leaned against a lamppost, trying to catch their breath and calm their racing hearts. That was terrifying, Maya said, her voice still shaking. David nodded, his face pale. I know. I thought he was going to do something to us. They looked at each other, their eyes wide with fear and adrenaline. They had never been so scared in their lives. We need to call Detective Miller, David said, his voice firm. Now. They pulled out David's phone and quickly dialed the police station. Officer Davies answered the phone again. Northwood Police Department, Officer Davies speaking. Officer Davies, this is David Chen again, David said, his voice urgent. We just returned the wallet to Mr. Henderson, but something happened. We need to talk to Detective Miller right away. Officer Davies' voice changed, becoming more serious. What happened, David? Are you okay? We're fine, David said, but Mr. Henderson was acting really weird. And we asked him about the abandoned factory, and he got really nervous and threatened us. We think he's involved in something. Officer Davies paused for a moment. All right, David, stay where you are. I'll patch you through to Detective Miller right away. A few seconds later, Detective Miller's voice came on the line. David? Maya? What's going on? David quickly recounted their experience at Mr. Henderson's house, describing his appearance, the smell of chemicals, and his reaction to their questions about the factory. He emphasized how scared they had been, and how they felt like they were in danger. Detective Miller listened intently, her voice calm and professional. When David finished, she spoke quickly and decisively. Okay, kids, listen to me. I want you to go straight home, and don't talk to anyone about this, understand? I'm going to send a patrol car to your houses to make sure you're safe. And I'm going to pay Mr. Henderson another visit, right now. You did the right thing, calling me. You may have just helped us break this case wide open. She hung up the phone, and Maya and David looked at each other, a mixture of fear and excitement in their eyes. They had done it. They had faced their fears, and they had helped the police get one step closer to catching the counterfeiters. But they knew, as they waited for the patrol car to arrive, that their adventure was far from over. The real danger, they suspected, was just beginning. The sky was getting darker, and the night was full of secrets. And they were right in the middle of it all. True to her word, a patrol car arrived at Maya's house within minutes, its flashing lights illuminating the quiet street. A young, uniformed officer stepped out and approached them. Maya Johnson? David Chen? He asked, his voice friendly but professional. Yes, sir, Maya said, relieved to see him. Detective Miller asked me to make sure you two got home safe, the officer said. I'm going to follow you to your house, David, just to make sure everything's okay. David nodded gratefully. Thank you, sir. As they walked to David's house, followed by the patrol car, they couldn't help but feel a sense of both relief and apprehension. They were safe, for now, but they knew that Detective Miller was about to confront Mr. Henderson, and they had no idea what would happen next. When they arrived at David's house, the officer waited until he was safely inside before driving away. Maya walked home alone, her thoughts racing. She couldn't shake the image of Mr. Henderson's nervous face, or the smell of chemicals that permeated the air around his house. She knew, deep down, that he was involved in something illegal. But what? And how far would he go to protect his secrets? Meanwhile, at 14, Willow Creek Drive, Detective Miller and several other officers were surrounding Mr. Henderson's house. They approached the front door cautiously, their guns drawn. Detective Miller knocked loudly, her voice firm and authoritative. "Police! Open up!" After a moment of silence, the door creaked open, and Mr. Henderson appeared, his face pale and drawn. He looked even more disheveled than he had earlier, and his eyes were filled with fear. "What's going on?" he stammered, his voice trembling. "What do you want?" Detective Miller held up her badge. "Mr. Henderson, we need to ask you a few questions. May we come in?" Mr. Henderson hesitated, his eyes darting nervously around the yard. Then, he stepped aside, allowing the officers to enter his house. As soon as they were inside, the officers spread out, searching the house for any signs of illegal activity. The smell of chemicals was even stronger inside, and the air was thick with dust and grime. The house was a mess, with dirty dishes piled in the sink, clothes scattered on the floor, and newspapers stacked in every corner. Detective Miller focused her attention on Mr. Henderson, her gaze sharp and unwavering. "Mr. Henderson," she said, "we know about the counterfeit money. And we know about the abandoned factory. We think you can help us." Mr. Henderson's face crumpled, and he began to cry. "I didn't do anything," he sobbed. "I swear. I was just helping out." Detective Miller raised an eyebrow. "Helping out? With what, Mr. Henderson? Printing fake money?" Mr. Henderson hung his head, his shoulders shaking. The game, it seemed, was finally over. The truth, after all, had a way of coming to light, even in the darkest of places. And Maya and David, with their honesty and courage, had helped bring it into the sun. As Mr. Henderson confessed his involvement, other officers were searching the house, meticulously collecting evidence. They found stacks of counterfeit bills hidden in the attic, along with printing plates and other equipment used to produce the fake money. It was clear that Mr. Henderson was more than just a helper, he was a key player in the operation. Meanwhile, Detective Miller pressed Mr. Henderson for information about the other members of the ring. He reluctantly revealed that the printing operation was based in the abandoned factory on the outskirts of town, and that several other individuals were involved. He provided names and descriptions, his voice barely a whisper. With this new information in hand, Detective Miller quickly organized a raid on the factory. She called for backup from other police departments, and within hours, a convoy of patrol cars was speeding towards the abandoned building, their sirens wailing. The factory was a large, dilapidated structure with broken windows and a crumbling facade. It had been abandoned for years, and was known to be a haven for drug users and homeless people. The police surrounded the building, their guns drawn, and prepared to enter. Detective Miller led the charge, her face grim and determined. They kicked down the front door and stormed inside, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. The interior of the factory was even more chaotic than Mr. Henderson's house. The air was thick with dust and the smell of chemicals, and the floor was littered with debris. In the center of the main room, they found a sophisticated printing operation, complete with high-tech equipment, stacks of counterfeit bills, and several individuals working frantically to produce more fake money. The police quickly apprehended the suspects, who offered little resistance. They were clearly caught off guard, and had no chance to escape. Detective Miller surveyed the scene, her eyes scanning the equipment and the stacks of money. They had finally found the source of the counterfeit bills that had been plaguing their town. Back at their homes, Maya and David were anxiously awaiting news. They had been glued to the television, watching the local news reports about the police activity at Mr. Henderson's house and the abandoned factory. They knew that they had played a part in all of this, and they couldn't help but feel a sense of both pride and trepidation. Finally, the phone rang. It was Detective Miller. "Maya." "David," she said, her voice tired but triumphant. "We did it. We caught them. We shut down the printing operation, and we arrested everyone involved. Maya and David. We couldn't have done it without you two," Detective Miller continued, her voice filled with genuine appreciation. "You were so brave, and you did exactly the right thing. Thanks to you, we've taken down a major counterfeiting operation. You should be very proud of yourselves." Maya and David exchanged excited glances, their faces beaming with pride. They had faced their fears and helped bring criminals to justice. It was an experience they would never forget. The next day, the story of Maya and David's discovery was all over the local news. The headlines screamed about the counterfeit ring being busted, and the reporters hailed the two teens as local heroes. Their pictures were plastered on the front page of the newspaper, and they were interviewed on television. Suddenly, Maya and David were famous. They were stopped on the street by people who wanted to congratulate them, and they received dozens of phone calls and emails from friends, family, and even complete strangers. At first, they enjoyed the attention. It was exciting to be recognized for their bravery and honesty. But after a while, they began to feel overwhelmed. They missed their normal lives, and they longed for the days when they could walk down the street without being mobbed by reporters. Their parents, however, were incredibly proud of them. They praised them for their courage and integrity, and they encouraged them to use their newfound fame to do good in the world. The mayor of Northwood even held a special ceremony to honor Maya and David, presenting them with awards for their outstanding service to the community. He praised them for their quick thinking and their unwavering commitment to doing what was right. "Maya and David are shining examples of what it means to be good citizens," the mayor said, his voice booming. "They represent the best of our town, and we are incredibly proud to call them our own." As they stood on the stage, accepting their awards, Maya and David felt a sense of both gratitude and responsibility. They knew that they had been given a unique opportunity to make a difference in the world, and they were determined to use it wisely. The experience had changed them, in ways they couldn't yet fully understand. They had faced danger, overcome their fears, and helped bring criminals to justice. They had learned the importance of honesty, courage, and community. And they had discovered that even the smallest act of kindness can have a big impact on the world. The summer after the events was filled with small-town celebrations for the two. As time went on, the town went back to normal, but Maya and David never forgot what happened that spring. It shaped their view of right and wrong for the rest of their lives. Years later, Maya became a lawyer, dedicating her career to fighting for justice and defending those who couldn't afford legal representation. David became a police officer, vowing to protect his community and uphold the law. They both credited their experience with the counterfeit money case as the catalyst for their career choices. One sunny afternoon, years after the events, Maya and David were walking down Elm Street together, reminiscing about their childhood adventure. "Can you believe it all started with a lost wallet?" Maya said, laughing. David shook his head, smiling. "It's crazy, isn't it? Who would have thought that such a simple thing could lead to all of that?" They stopped in front of Northwood Middle School, the place where their journey had begun. They looked at each other, a shared understanding passing between them. They had come a long way since that day, but they would never forget the lessons they had learned. As they continued their walk, they noticed a young boy standing on the sidewalk, looking lost and confused. He was holding a crumpled piece of paper in his hand, and he seemed to be searching for something. Maya and David exchanged a knowing glance. They had been there before. They approached the boy and offered their help. "Hey there," Maya said, her voice gentle. "Are you lost?" The boy looked up, his eyes filled with hope. "Yes, ma'am," he said. "I'm trying to find the library, but I can't read the map." David smiled. "Don't worry," he said. "We can help you. We know this town like the back of our hands." Together, they guided the boy to the library, sharing stories and jokes along the way. As they watched him disappear inside the building, they felt a sense of satisfaction. They had paid it forward, passing on the kindness and compassion that had been shown to them so many years ago. They continued their walk, their hearts filled with hope and gratitude. They knew that the world wasn't perfect, and that there would always be challenges to face. But they also knew that even the smallest act of kindness could make a difference. And they were determined to keep doing their part, one good deed at a time. The end. The police stormed the abandoned factory, a symphony of shouts and the crunch of boots on broken glass filling the air. Flashlights danced across the cavernous space, revealing a scene of organized chaos. In the center of the room, a group of figures huddled around a set of sophisticated printing presses. The machines whirred and clanked, churning out stacks of freshly printed bills. The air reeked of ink and chemicals, a testament to the illegal operation underway. "Police! Freeze! Don't move!" Detective Miller shouted, her voice cutting through the noise. The figures around the presses startled, their eyes widening in panic. Some tried to run, but were quickly apprehended by the officers. Others simply froze, their hands raised in surrender. As the police secured the area, they began to examine the equipment and the counterfeit bills. The printing presses were state-of-the-art, capable of producing high-quality forgeries that were difficult to distinguish from genuine currency. Stacks of fake 20s, 50s, and hundreds were piled high on tables, ready to be distributed throughout the town. The officers also discovered a hidden room behind the printing presses. Inside, they found evidence connecting several individuals to the crime. There were ledgers detailing the operation's finances, maps showing distribution routes, and photographs of the key players in the counterfeiting ring. Detective Miller surveyed the scene, her face grim but satisfied. They had shut down a major counterfeiting operation, and they had the evidence to put everyone involved behind bars. It was a victory for the community, and a testament to the power of honesty and courage. The work to dismantle this illegal operation would take weeks, but it was a huge step towards keeping the town safe. The next morning, the news broke across the town like wildfire. Every news channel and newspaper was reporting on the successful bust of the counterfeit ring, hailing it as a major victory for law enforcement and the community. The news reports highlighted the sophisticated nature of the printing operation, emphasizing how difficult it had been to track down the source of the counterfeit bills. They also praised the bravery and quick thinking of the local police, particularly Detective Miller, for their tireless efforts to bring the criminals to justice. But the most prominent aspect of the news coverage was the story of Maya and David. The reports detailed how the two teens had found the lost wallet, noticed the suspicious nature of the money, and reported their findings to the police. They emphasized that it was Maya and David's honesty and courage that had ultimately led to the discovery of the counterfeit ring. If it weren't for these two observant teens, this operation could have continued for months, or even years, one news anchor said. Their actions have saved our community from significant economic harm, and they deserve our gratitude and admiration. The news reports also included interviews with Detective Miller, who praised Maya and David for their invaluable assistance. "These two kids are true heroes," she said. "They did exactly what any good citizen should do, and they helped us crack this case wide open. We are incredibly grateful for their help." The news coverage sparked a wave of support and admiration for Maya and David throughout the town. People hailed them as role models and praised them for their honesty and courage. They received countless letters and phone calls from people expressing their gratitude, and they were invited to speak at schools and community events. The experience was overwhelming, but Maya and David remained humble and grounded. They knew that they had simply done the right thing, and they were grateful for the opportunity to make a positive impact on their community. They would now be held as shining examples to other kids to do what's right, no matter how scary it is. Even though the attention was more than they bargained for, the important thing was that the counterfeiters were no longer printing fake money that could harm honest people. The mayor of Northwood declared Maya and David Day a town-wide celebration of their heroism. A parade marched down Main Street, with Maya and David riding in an open convertible, waving to the cheering crowds. Banners proclaimed, "Welcome home, heroes," and "Northwood thanks Maya and David." The local bakery created special hero cookies, with their faces iced on top, and the ice cream shop offered a Maya and David sundae, with double the sprinkles. The library hosted a reading event where Maya and David read aloud from their favorite books, inspiring younger children to follow in their footsteps. The Northwood Police Department held a special ceremony to formally recognize Maya and David's contribution to the case. Detective Miller presented them with certificates of commendation, praising their bravery and their unwavering commitment to doing what was right. "These two young people are an inspiration to all of us," Detective Miller said, her voice filled with emotion. "They showed us that even the smallest act of courage can have a big impact on the world. They are true heroes, and we are incredibly proud to have them in our community." The police department also gave Maya and David honorary police badges, recognizing them as official, junior detectives. The badges were engraved with their names and the date of the counterfeit ring bust, serving as a lasting reminder of their extraordinary achievement. The recognition from the community and the police department meant the world to Maya and David. They were grateful for the support and admiration they received, and they were determined to use their newfound platform to promote the importance of honesty, courage, and community service. It showed that anyone can make a difference, no matter how old they are. And with community events, the attention was on fighting crime and rewarding good deeds, not just on them as individuals. They agreed to keep volunteering, and encouraging others to make a difference. The experience had shown them how easy it is to help make the world a little bit better, even if you're still in middle school. They vowed never to forget the lessons that they had learned from their adventure. In quiet moments, away from the parades and the interviews, Maya and David would talk about what they had learned. They realized that honesty isn't always easy. There were times when they were scared, when they doubted themselves, when they just wanted to forget about the wallet and go home. But they knew, deep down, that doing the right thing was always worth it, even when it was difficult. "It's like, if we had just ignored the funny-looking money, none of this would have happened," Maya said one evening, sitting on her porch swing with David. "We could have just given the wallet back and gone on with our lives. But then, the counterfeiters would still be out there, hurting people." David nodded. "Yeah, and it wasn't just about the money. It was about doing what's right, even when it's scary. I mean, I was terrified when Mr. Henderson started yelling at us. But we couldn't just back down. We had to stand up for what we believed in." They also realized the importance of community. They had learned that they weren't alone in their commitment to honesty and justice. There were other people in their town, like Detective Miller and Officer Davies, who were willing to put their lives on the line to protect their community. "It's like we're all in this together," David said. "We have to look out for each other, and we have to support each other. Because if we don't, who will?" They decided to use their newfound platform to spread these messages to other kids. They spoke at schools and community events, sharing their story and encouraging others to do what's right, even when it's difficult. They emphasized the importance of honesty, courage, and community service. "It's not always easy to do the right thing," Maya would say. "But it's always worth it. Because when you do what's right, you make the world a little bit better. And that's something we can all do, no matter how old we are." The experience showed them that doing the right thing, even when it is scary, is worth it in the end. It will impact not only them, but also the world around them. They realized their responsibility to continue making a positive impact. Their story showed their peers that being honest and brave is always the right choice. And they encouraged others to take a stand and make a difference in their communities, too. The events that took place in the spring of their middle school year would affect the rest of their lives. It was a time they would never forget. Years later, after all the awards had been given and the news stories had faded, Maya and David still walked home from school together most days, even though they were now in high school. The route was familiar, comfortable, a symbol of their enduring friendship. One afternoon, as they rounded the corner onto Maple Avenue, David stopped and pointed to the sidewalk. "Hey, look," he said, a smile playing on his lips. Maya followed his gaze and saw a small, brightly colored wallet lying on the ground. It was a child's wallet, decorated with cartoon characters and filled with what looked like allowance money. They exchanged a knowing glance. It was like their adventure had come full circle. Without a word, they picked up the wallet and began to search for the owner. They didn't need to discuss what to do, they both knew the right thing. They found a name and address inside, and decided to walk to the owner's house. As they walked, they talked about their plans for the future, their dreams and aspirations. Maya talked about becoming a lawyer, fighting for justice and defending the innocent. David talked about becoming a police officer, protecting his community and upholding the law. They both knew that their experience with the counterfeit money case had shaped their lives in profound ways. When they reached the address on the wallet, they knocked on the door. A young girl answered, her face lighting up with joy when she saw her missing wallet. She thanked Maya and David profusely, her eyes sparkling with gratitude. As they walked away, hand in hand, Maya and David felt a sense of peace and contentment. They had done the right thing, and they had made the world a little bit better. Their bond of friendship was stronger than ever. They continued their walk home, their hearts filled with hope and